Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. And you can watch this program live on our Facebook page and also on our delayed broadcast on our YouTube channel. That's Radyo Pilipinas World Service. And you can hear this broadcast on our audio streaming live through our PBS Evox receiver app. Also on our shortwave broadcast through these shortwave frequencies of the English program. That's 15.640 megahertz, 17.750 megahertz, and 21.720 megahertz. And this is your host, Jerome Toledo. Let's begin Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
All right, today, May 8th, the ASEAN Leaders Summit is now taking place here in the Philippines, and that event is happening in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu Province. And the leaders of the ASEAN bloc is there now in the province to gather and to discuss some issues, particularly in the energy issues, as well as the security and also the migrant protection or migrant workers protection. And the leaders attending in that summit is or are the following. So the Philippines is as it leads by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr., which happens to be the chairman of the ASEAN for this year, or the Philippines rather. And also attending in that summit is the Brunei leader through Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah. Meanwhile, in Cambodia, Prime Minister Hun Manet will attend that summit. And Indonesia will send its president, Prabowo Subianto, in the summit. And Laos will send their representatives in that summit. And also present in that summit is Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, as well as the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Hau Kansum of Myanmar. He will represent the Myanmar leader, which will not attend the summit. And also, Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong will attend the ceremony, and also the Prime Minister of Thailand, Anutin Charnvirakul, is present there, and as well as the Prime Minister of Vietnam, Lee Min Hung. And the latest member of ASEAN will be present in the ASEAN Leaders Summit happening today, May 8th, is Prime Minister Sanana Gusmao. So we are showing you right now on our Facebook Live the opening of the ASEAN Leaders Summit that is happening today. And meanwhile, since we're talking about the ASEAN, so here are the highlights of the event of the ASEAN Summit here in the Philippines. Because President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. pushed for deeper regional cooperation and people-centered development as he led the special Brunei Darussalam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, East ASEAN Growth Area, or BIMP-EAGA or BIMP-IAGA Summit in Cebu Province. Meeting with Brunei Darussalam leader Sultan Hassanal Bolkiah, Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto, and Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, President Marcos Jr. said the regional cooperation should produce visible and lasting benefits for ordinary communities, not just economic targets on paper. The president said ongoing programs and projects under BIMP-IAGA framework continue to create livelihoods, improve connectivity, and expand opportunities, particularly in growth areas across member economies. And also on that particular event, President Marcos called on leaders of those nations to sustain cooperation and translate regional plans into long-term impact for future generations. And that organization or that particular group of nations, BIMP-IAGA, which was established in 1994, is a sub-regional cooperation initiative aimed at accelerating economic development in less developed and geographically remote areas of the four member countries through enhanced connectivity, trade, investment, tourism, and infrastructure cooperation. So that summit forms part of the Philippines hosting of the 48th ASEAN Summit and related meetings. So let's hear the portion of the statement of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he attended that BIMP-IAGA meeting.
As we gather today, we look forward with purpose, guided by the BIMP-IAGA Vision 2035 and its strong alignment with the broader aspirations of ASEAN. This vision is not merely a roadmap for economic integration. It is a promise to our people that development will be meaningful, sustainable, and felt in their daily lives. Let this summit renew our resolve to translate vision into action and plans into lasting impact. Together, let us continue building a more connected, resilient, and prosperous BIMP-IAGA for present and future generations.
So that was President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he presided the BIMP-IAGA Summit. But in the meantime, we'll cut the regular programming of the program front and center here on Radio Pilipinas World Service to give way for the opening speech of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the 48th ASEAN Summit in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu Province. Let's listen in.
Mula sa Presidential Communications Office at Radyo Pilipinas, ito ang Presidential Live Event. Presidential Live Event.
It is my great pleasure to welcome you all to the 48th ASEAN Summit and related meetings here in the Philippines, Queen City of the South, Cebu. At the outset, allow me to convey my sincere appreciation for your presence at this important gathering. I recognize that each delegation has traveled here despite demanding schedules and pressing responsibilities at home. That you have chosen to be here reflects not only the urgency and significance of the occasion, but also our shared commitment to the enduring values that continue to bind our region together: dialogue, cooperation, and mutual respect. Ladies and gentlemen, it is especially meaningful that we gather in this historic place. As a pre-colonial trading hub, the historic province of Cebu has served as a gateway to our beautiful country. Long before our modern borders existed, Cebu already stood as a crossroads of trade, ideas, and peoples. Half a century ago, Cebu witnessed the birth of Philippine international connectivity, the introduction of a lasting spiritual and cultural heritage, and the beginnings of a major regional hub. 20 years ago, within these very grounds, leaders of our region signed the Cebu Declaration on the blueprint of the ASEAN Charter, which marked significant progress in transforming ASEAN's cooperation framework into a stronger, more coherent institutional architecture, laying the essential groundwork for the eventual signing of the ASEAN Charter in 2007. It is therefore a fitting place for our summit, providing us with a valuable opportunity to advance regional cooperation, economic resilience, and sustainability under the Philippine chairship, anchored on the theme, Navigating Our Future Together. Ladies and gentlemen, we once more find ourselves here in Cebu at a defining moment in our shared journey. As we gather then for an important milestone, so do we stand together today to demonstrate ASEAN's capacity to respond with unity, with wisdom, with resolve, at a time when our region is once again faced with profound uncertainty. For we meet at a time of considerable challenge. Across our region and beyond, nations continue to navigate an increasingly complex global environment. The increasingly volatile situation in the Middle East has impacted our region, challenging us to remain agile in the face of the uncertainties which threaten lifestyles, livelihoods, and lives. Many of our countrymen continue to look to us, their leaders, not only for stability, but for reassurance and for hope. Over the past months, each of our countries has had to make adjustments to modify our approaches. So we come together now to study those adjustments, to find the best approaches, to face the future together. For the Philippines, we made a difficult decision to recalibrate our ASEAN chairship hosting in response to the Middle East conflict through the scaling down of non-essential activities and shifting of applicable meetings from physical to virtual platforms. Despite the said calibration, we strive to remain responsive to the needs of our ASEAN community and focused on fulfilling our chairship goals. The work of ASEAN must continue, not despite the challenges, but because the times demand our answers to those challenges, for our peoples, for our countries, for ASEAN. My appreciation extends to ASEAN and our partners in ASEAN, because despite facing deep challenges of your own, you have come to support us and to work with us to respond to this crisis. We have strengthened our coordination where possible. Our foreign, economic, agriculture, and energy ministers have met to lay out plans with their sectors. Joint meetings between the political security and economic pillars were held to align our responses. We have all done what we can, individually and collectively, to ensure that even amidst uncertainty, the work of building our ASEAN community continues. Ladies and gentlemen, our theme of navigating our future together has always held true for ASEAN. But now, more than ever, it is a principle that we must continue to share, an idea we must continue to embrace. If there is one lesson ASEAN has learned over the decades, it is that difficult times do not divide us. For ASEAN, challenges present us with opportunities that have further strengthened our resolve to work more closely, to listen more carefully, and to act more purposefully. This summit gathering is evidence of that commitment. It reflects our shared understanding that especially in moments of difficulty, engagement remains essential. That when circumstances are challenging, partnership is, more than ever, indispensable. And that even when the future appears uncertain, hope remains the responsibility of leadership. It is in that spirit that I warmly welcome all of you, reminded of the significance of our gathering. For ASEAN has always drawn its strength not from uniformity, but from unity. So as we begin our work today, let our discussions be guided by wisdom, openness, and our enduring commitment to one another. Aligned with the Philippines' 3 Ps, peace and security anchors, prosperity corridors, and people empowerment, our discussions today will chart our course as we navigate our future together. Once again, I thank you for your presence and welcome you to the 48th ASEAN Summit. Mabuhay at maraming salamat.
Thank you, Mr. President. May we respect...
And you just heard the speech of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he opens the 48th ASEAN Leaders Summit in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu. As the Philippines sets the stage for high-level discussions as leaders gather under the Philippine chairmanship to advance regional priorities and strengthen cooperation. And from economic resilience to regional stability, the ASEAN Leaders Summit opens with a shared commitment to work together and deliver outcomes that matter for the people of ASEAN. And also, he stated there, President Marcos Jr. stated that the chairmanship of the Philippines at the ASEAN Summit is or has been recalibrated. That's in response or direct response to Middle East crisis, which brought the rising oil prices, and also so that's the reason why the Philippines has to make adjustments in its chairmanship or taking over the chairmanship of the ASEAN for this year. And also, President Marcos Jr. stated that the summit will advance regional priorities and strengthen cooperation among ASEAN nations. And now the ASEAN summit has now opened in Cebu, and they will be discussing a lot of priorities, including the energy topics, and also migrant workers protections, migrant workers rights protection, as well as the economy of the entire region. So that's you just heard the opening speech of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the 48th ASEAN Summit there in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu. So more ASEAN topics coming your way in the program here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service Front and Center. We'll be right back.
Dati-rati maraming pamilyang Pilipino ang kapos. May mga magulang na hindi alam kung saan kukuha ng makakain. Sa ayuda naman, matagal sila naghihintay bago makakuha. Kapag may kalamidad, ang relief goods, mano-manong inihahanda, kaya matagal dumating.
Ng ating walang gutom program.
Kaya malinaw ang utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Ilapit ang tulong, pabilisin ng serbisyo, siguraduhin may nakakain ang bawat pamilyang Pilipino.
Direktiba ng ating Pangulo, siguraduhin dapat una wala ng pamilyang Pilipino na nagugutom para maging bahagi sila ng productive workforce.
Nitong nakaraang linggo, personal na sinuri ng Pangulo ang pagpapatupad nito. Sa Walang Gutom Food Stamp Program, ang mga benepisyaryong tulad ni Lola Lumen ay tumatanggap ng 3,000 pisong food credits kada buwan sa electronic card, pambili ng masustansyang pagkain sa DSWD partner stores. Hindi na bibiyahe, mas mabilis. Ang resulta, nakikita. Mga masusustansyang pagkain ang agad na iuwi.
Meron na ring balansyado na nutritional value ang binibigay, lalo na sa mga bata.
Sa 4Ps o Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, pinadali na rin ang pagkuha ng ayuda. Kung dati oras ang ginugugol sa biyahe, ngayon nasa cellphone na. Mas diretso, mas sigurado.
These are the underserved areas. Walang branch ng bangko. Lahat ginagawa natin para maging madali para sa kanila, makuha nila yung mga cash benefit nila.
Sa oras naman ng sakuna, mas mabilis na rin ang responde dahil sa mas maayos sa paghahanda at mass production ng relief goods. Kung dati ilang araw ang hinihintay, ngayon sa loob na lang ng ilang oras na ipadadala na ang tulong. Ito ang malinaw na resulta. Mas mabilis sa serbisyo, mas malapit sa tao, at mas nararamdaman sa araw-araw. Sa buong bansa, tuloy-tuloy ang trabaho. Isa-isang inaayos sa mga bagay na magpapagaan sa buhay ng mga Pilipino dahil walang Pilipino ang dapat magutom, mapabayaan, walang maiiwan.
Salamat!
Paano nga ba mag-register para magkaroon ng schedule sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center? Narito ang mga dapat gawin. Gamit ang iyong mobile device, pumunta sa eGov.ph app. Pwede itong i-download mula sa Apple App Store o sa Google Play Store. Gumawa ng account. Ilagay ang email address, valid mobile number, pagkatapos ay makakatanggap ka ng one-time code sa iyong email. Gamitin ang code sa eGov app para sa verification ng iyong account at ng mga impormasyong ibinigay. Congratulations! Meron ka ng eGov.ph app account. Pwede mo na ma-access ang iba't ibang serbisyo ng gobyerno kabilang ang mga serbisyo sa Bagong Pilipinas Presidential Action Center.
Mabilis ang trivia, dagdag talino. Heto na ang Dagling Kaalaman.
Nasubukan niyo na bang gumamit ng QR codes? Ang QR codes o Quick Response Codes ay naimbento noong 1994 ni Masahiro Hara, isang engineer ng Japanese company na Denso Wave. Pangunahing layunin nito ang pag-label at i-track ang automotive parts. Sa pagnanais na maikalat at makatulong ito sa lipunan, isinulong ng Denso ang Advanced International Standardization at ginawang open source ang technology. At ngayon, ito ay ginagamit na sa lahat, mula sa mobile payments hanggang sa restaurants, event tickets at authentication system.
Kaunting kaalaman na malaking dagdag talino. Abangan muli ang susunod na Dagling Kaalaman.
And welcome back to Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Still with me, Jerome Toledo. And since we're focusing on today's program on the ASEAN Summit, particularly the 48 ASEAN Summit, which is taking place here in the country in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu Province. So we'll be discussing more of that, particularly the highlights of the summit from the past few days. As President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. stood between Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Manet and Thai Prime Minister Anutin Charnvirakul as the two leaders shook hands following a trilateral meeting aimed at easing tensions over their long-running border dispute. And on the sidelines of the 48 Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN Summit in Cebu Province, and the meeting, which held on Thursday, May 7th, marked one of the most visible diplomatic interventions yet under the Philippines ASEAN chairship. And the President Marcos Jr. said the discussion demonstrated ASEAN's commitment to dialogue, mutual respect, and peaceful dispute resolution amid regional tensions. And the conflict, to recall, between Thailand and Cambodia intensified around mid-2025 over disputed border areas surrounding ancient Mer's temple sites, escalating into clashes involving heavy weapons and airstrikes. And because of that conflict, nearly 150 people were reportedly lost their lives, while hundreds of thousands were displaced during two major rounds of fighting between Cambodia and Thailand. Although a ceasefire was brokered during the 47th ASEAN Summit in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia last year, which U.S. President Donald Trump has witnessed, tensions resurfaced weeks later before another fragile truce was reached. And fast forward, during Thursday's meeting, President Marcos Jr. said both leaders reaffirmed the importance of maintaining the open communication as well as exercising restraint among two nations and avoiding actions that could escalate tensions. And the two leaders agreed to direct their foreign ministers to sustain dialogue and explore measures which aimed at preventing renewed conflict and preserving regional stability, which eventually will lead to peace. And the meeting also affirmed the continuing role of the ASEAN Observer Team, whose mandate was extended for another 3 months until July. And Marcos said the Philippines remain committed to facilitating dialogue between both sides as ASEAN works to preserve peace and unity in the region. And on that meeting between the Philippines, Cambodia, and Thailand, Anutin and Hun Manet both expressed gratitude to the Philippines for leading the talks. And for his part, the Cambodian leader said the Philippines' constructive leadership in promoting regional peace, stability, and unity is commendable. So you can see the meeting there has been successful. So it takes a lot of meetings to reach at this point of for negotiating peace, and so that they will be so that we will reach regional stability and peace. By the way, here's the speech, or the part of speech of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he negotiates or led the discussions between Cambodia and Thailand.
This meeting was arranged by the Philippines as a way to provide its good offices in our capacity as chair of ASEAN for 2026 to Cambodia and Thailand in order to provide a meaningful space for constructive dialogue on their bilateral border issues. This meeting has demonstrated how our relationship in ASEAN is built on mutual respect, trust, solidarity, and understanding. It is a relationship that requires sensitivity to each other's concerns, which I I think I am able to say was amply demonstrated in the discussions this evening. And also a commitment to dialogue, once again, amply demonstrated by both parties this evening, and the willingness to manage differences constructively. The Philippines approached this dialogue with utmost respect for both countries, guided by ASEAN's fundamental principles of respect for sovereignty, non-interference, and the peaceful settlement of disputes, as enshrined in the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia. As such, I appreciate the trust extended by Prime Minister Han Manet and Prime Minister Anutin to this process. During this meeting, I would venture to say that many subjects have been covered. Some agreements have been reached, and ways forward have been discussed. There were many candid discussions about the border situation between Cambodia and Thailand. They have both although they have both reaffirmed their importance of maintaining open communication, exercising restraint, avoiding actions that may escalate tensions, and continuing efforts towards peaceful dialogue and constructive engagement. I believe this was possible because of a very clear, fervent belief by both leaders that it is time for peace and no longer the time for war. The prime ministers have agreed to task the respective foreign ministers to sustain this open and candid dialogue and to discuss more directly with one another in detail constructive approaches to prevent escalation, foster the conditions for peace and stability, and to safeguard the well-being of their peoples. Complementary to existing bilateral frameworks, the meeting today also affirmed the importance of the continuing role of the ASEAN Observer Team, composed of representatives from ASEAN member states, to observe, to verify, and to report the implementation of all agreements. We welcome as well the extension of the AOT's mandate for another 3 months, which will last until July of this year. The Philippines underscores its commitment to fulfill its obligation as coordinator of the AOT. And so as Cambodia and Thailand continue to work on the situation, the Philippines commits to continue offering its good offices to enable both countries to engage in sustained dialogue and cooperation, especially towards upholding the commitments and principles agreed upon by the two parties. We express our confidence in the ability of both Cambodia and Thailand to resolve the matter amicably and to manage their border differences peacefully in the spirit of ASEAN solidarity and unity. The entire ASEAN family remains ready to continue supporting efforts to promote dialogue, confidence building, and the maintenance of peace and stability in the region. Together, the three of us have reaffirmed that peace and stability are indispensable for ASEAN's continued growth, prosperity, and the well-being of our people, and that preserving this stability requires constant effort from all ASEAN member states.
So that was President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he led the discussions between Cambodia and Thailand as they talk about regional peace, particularly the peace talks. The peace talks between Cambodia and Thailand, as those countries has faced major conflict. Okay, so while we are actually anticipating a speech coming from President Marcos Jr. as he leads the dialogue or opening dialogue at the 48th ASEAN Summit there in Cebu City. But in the meantime, let's talk about the discussions between Philippines and Vietnam as President Marcos Jr. or President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. and Vietnamese Prime Minister Lee Min-hung on Thursday, May 7th, agreed to establish a long-term rice trade mechanism aimed at ensuring stable supply and strengthening food security cooperation between the Philippines and Vietnam. And the agreement was discussed during their bilateral meeting on the sidelines of the 48th Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, in Cebu province. Both leaders emphasized the importance of enhancing the agricultural cooperation amid regional and global supply concerns. And the two officials also discussed expanding collaboration in combating transnational crimes, including scam hubs and human trafficking, as well as strengthening tourism cooperation between the two countries. And Marcos also extended his congratulations to the Vietnamese leader on his recent appointment as Prime Minister and welcomed him to his first ASEAN summit. So basically, the coverage of that particular meeting with Vietnamese leader focuses on the rice trade and as well as the assumption of the Vietnamese leader into his position as Prime Minister. And the two leaders likewise underscored the significance of the 50th anniversary of Philippines-Vietnam bilateral relations, expressing confidence that the milestone will further deepen trade, economic, and people-to-people ties. And Vietnam remains one of the Philippines' major rice suppliers, with Manila relying on imports to help stabilize domestic supply and prices rather. And the bilateral meeting forms part of a series of engagements being held on the sidelines of the 48th ASEAN Summit hosted by the Philippines in Cebu province. Meanwhile, as we talk about the highlights of the ASEAN Summit there in Cebu, Southeast Asian foreign and economic ministers on Thursday. This is before the actual ASEAN Leader Summit, which is taking place today, May 8th. But there are series of meetings between foreign and economic ministers. And on Thursday, ASEAN foreign and economic ministers pushed for closer regional coordination as tensions in the Middle East continue to spill over into trade, energy, and food supply concerns across the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. So those particular agendas has been discussed beforehand, and it will be discussed later today, May 8th, on the ASEAN Summit proper. And in meeting in Cebu for the ASEAN Joint Foreign and Economic Ministers meeting, officials said the situation highlights how geopolitical conflicts increasingly carry direct economic consequences for the region, as obvious. And Foreign Affairs Secretary Maria Teresa Lazaro, who chaired the meeting, said ASEAN must remain coordinated and forward-looking as uncertainty persists in the Middle East. Okay, now we interrupt again the regular programming of the program Front and Center on Radio Pilipinas World Service to give way for the opening speech or opening dialogue of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. at the 48th ASEAN Summit in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu. Let's listen in again.
Mula sa Presidential Communications Office at Radyo Pilipinas, ito ang Presidential Live Event. Presidential Live Event.
All right. Okay, while we are waiting to connect with the speech of President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. as he opens the session with a dialogue with 10-member ASEAN states, we are going to hear the entire speech of President Marcos Jr. Let's listen in again.
Lao People's Democratic Republic. And in the same spirit, let me likewise extend my warmest congratulations to His Excellency Mr. Anutin Chanvirakul on his re-election as Prime Minister of the Kingdom of Thailand. We meet at a defining moment for our region and the global community. The international geopolitical landscape continues to be marked by uncertainty and heightened geopolitical tensions, particularly by the grave situation in the Middle East. ASEAN has expressed serious concern over the escalation of conflict due to the preemptive attacks initiated by Israel and the United States against the Islamic Republic of Iran on February 28, 2026, and the subsequent retaliatory attacks by Iran against several countries in the region. These developments have disrupted maritime and air transport routes, heightened risks to merchant and non-combatant vessels and aircraft, and affected the flow of energy and essential goods. Against this backdrop, we come together guided by ASEAN's long-standing commitment to peace and the collective positions expressed by each ASEAN member state: the immediate cessation of hostilities, the peaceful settlement of disputes, the protection of civilians and civilian infrastructure, and the restoration of safe, unimpeded, and continuous transit passage in the Strait of Hormuz. For ASEAN, these challenges are deeply felt by our people through higher living costs, supply disruptions, threatened livelihoods, economic strain, growing vulnerability, both in our homelands and amongst our nationals in the Middle East. It is a stark reminder that in an increasingly uncertain world, we call for our collective action, and it has never been more urgent. So we must continue to uphold the principles of ASEAN centrality and solidarity and pursue practical cooperation. For this, I thank you for answering the call, underscoring the importance and urgency of convening at this time. It is in this spirit that we gather today to pursue concrete outcomes and forge a collective path with particular focus on three urgent and interrelated priorities. First, we must ensure regional energy security and resilience. At a time of heightened volatility, ASEAN must strengthen coordination and reinforce preparedness, pursue practical collective measures to safeguard a stable energy supply and improve interconnectivity, all the while advancing alternatives and renewable energy sources to protect our economies from further shocks and to respond to the urgent challenge of climate change. In this effort, we must also harness innovation, including inclusive and responsible applications of artificial intelligence to improve energy forecasting, strengthen grid management and system flexibility, and support the clean energy transition. Second, we must work together to stabilize food security. Disruptions in trade and transport stemming from the closure of the Strait of Hormuz quickly affected food prices and supply, especially fertilizers, and subsequently the welfare of our peoples. Our task is to ensure that ASEAN remains responsive to strengthen and expand intra-ASEAN trade and build the capacities to safeguard and fortify our food systems across the region. Digital innovation can help us anticipate shortages, improve agricultural productivity, and support responsive decision-making so that our peoples in vulnerable situations are better protected. Third, we must uphold the safety of ASEAN nationals. In moments of crisis, ASEAN solidarity must be measured by our ability to act in concert to safeguard our peoples wherever they may be. This means strengthening early warning systems, enhancing consular coordination, and ensuring the timely delivery of assistance through the prudent use of new technologies, including exploring how AI-enabled tools may advance our priorities, anchored in human judgment and international law. Today, we gather to confront with unity and resolve the repercussions of the situation in the Middle East and seek to advance our common commitment to peace, stability, and prosperity, while ensuring that the benefits of our cooperation are felt by all our peoples. In this regard, the Philippines, as chair, reaffirms its strong commitment to steering ASEAN through changing and uncertain times under our chairship theme, Navigating Our Future Together. As we push forward the first year of the implementation of the ASEAN Community Vision 2045, we are reminded that our region is strongest when we turn shared challenges, however daunting they may be, into shared purpose. And to this end, we recognize the importance of maritime cooperation and look forward to the adoption of the ASEAN Leaders' Declaration on Maritime Cooperation, which includes the Philippines' proposal to establish an ASEAN Maritime Center, which will serve as an important platform for maritime cooperation in coordination with relevant ASEAN and ASEAN-led mechanisms. Navigating our future together is not only our chairship theme, but also the task that lies ahead of us. With this, I have the honor to declare the 48th ASEAN Summit Plenary now open. And at this point, I kindly request that our friends in the media leave the room so we may continue with our discussions. Thank you.
And that was the opening dialogue of President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. as he leads the opening statement of the ASEAN Leaders Summit in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu. As the President lays out the agendas to be discussed in the summit, first is the energy and the immediate cessation of conflict in Strait of Hormuz, as well as the climate change, the responsible use of artificial intelligence or AI, and so those are some of the agendas that will be discussed in the Leader Summit of ASEAN, as the Philippines chairs this year's ASEAN Summit taking place in Lapu-Lapu City in Cebu Province. And with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service, together with our production or technical team rather, headed by Mr. Milo Janela. Also on our Warcast, we have Mr. Hiro Lucero. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
And watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.